Welcome back to the show. I've got my new neighbor, Roy, and we met online. He sent me a message and found out we live one house away from each other here on the beach in Bakong. And so he was kind enough to invite me over to his place about a week ago. And I found out that you're a video editor, which is really exciting for me because I've got a YouTube channel. I don't know how to edit at all. I know how to take two clips and stick them together, and that's about it. But how did you get into video editing?
I originally went to film school thinking I was going to be the next Quentin Tarantino or, Scorsese or something. And it didn't work out that way, but I'm really glad I did because while I was in film school, I started working for an educational nonprofit, doing some editing here and there for them at much cheaper rates than, graduated professionals did. This was back in Los Angeles. And then eventually, a couple years after I finished school and had been doing, different types of jobs in the film industry, they brought me in to work for them in-house as their video editor. And then that job grew into a video producer and then events technical director and technical producer. And I've been working for them for like 13 years now.
No kidding.
But I'm basically on a sabbatical kind of. I had to take a step back just because it has just been too long of just working all those years. So back in January, I kind of took almost like a leave. I'm working about 10 hours a week for them kind of as a consultant on the major events. And I told them that I basically was spending so much of my life planning my next dive trip that I just needed to go and just dive. I just needed to go and get out into the world and go and see all the beautiful underwater spots and travel. Anyway, they kept me on, like I said, in a part-time capacity. And now I'm here in the Philippines. Wow.
Yeah. So the Philippines is the place to come to dive. So so have you done any dives since you've been here?
Yeah. Critter Republic in Darwin is run by this guy, Justin Karnak, the Critter Hunter, And when I was planning my first dive trip out here back in January, I ran across his channel. And it was funny, I love telling him this. I watched like a 40-minute documentary he made about all the different dive sites all around the Philippines they made a few years back. And then at the end of it, he says, okay, well, Philippines, it's been great. I've got lots of other places I'm going to go. So maybe I'll see you another time, Philippines. Bye-bye now. And then the next video that pops up in the YouTube feed was him saying, well, I got married and I moved to the Philippines. So he met a Filipina and I fell in love and now he lives here and he opened up this dive center. And I just love his videos and I've been diving with them ever since.
Yeah, I've known him for a long time. I've done quite a few videos with him. And so the main reason you came to the Philippines was for diving.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And you grew up where?
I was born in Israel.
Oh.
And actually lived there until I was like 6.
No kidding.
And then at that age, I moved up to Santa Cruz, California, where my dad had gone to college and his parents lived. And I grew up there. And a few years later, I found myself in LA, where I lived for almost 20 years. And then I actually moved back to Israel about 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Where in Israel?
I lived in Tel Aviv. Okay. Yeah. Until January, I actually lived there.
I've been to Haifa.
Oh, yeah. So I was born in Haifa, actually.
And I've been to Masada. Remember that?
Oh, that's a spectacular spot.
Yeah. It's just the history there is just amazing. I love that part of the world. I've always wanted to go back. I want to go to Egypt again. Been there like 4 times. I never got to spend a lot of time there. Love to go back there, and also Jordan, like Jordan too.
So Jordan's still very high on my bucket list. I can't believe that in 4 years in Israel, I didn't go to Jordan, but a lot of the time was COVID time, a lot of travel restrictions and stuff. But I did go to Egypt a number of times, and I was just there for a month, actually, before I came here on this second trip. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to go back there. So
the diving's pretty good too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've heard that. And so being here in the Philippines, this your first time in the Philippines?
So I came from January to February, and I made actually my first, vlog ever was like for friends and family. I made like a 20-minute video about my my first trip out here, and then I came back out a couple months ago. Yeah.
So, do you see yourself making this a permanent place to live for a while, or your home base, or do you think you'll go back to LA? I mean,
I don't think I'm going back to LA. Not anytime soon.
California's had a lot of problems lately. I lived there too.
Yeah.
I lived in Orange County quite a while ago, but I mean, you hear about all the drugs and the crime and the traffic and the cost of living and et cetera, et cetera. So it's
and just the walking outside of your place and seeing people defecate on the street, and people in very bad situations in their lives, really destitute, horrible drug epidemic. Like, I mean, it's just awful to see it. You know what I mean? Even if you can avoid it affecting you, I mean, it's rough out there, and you just feel so bad for so many of these people that are just found themselves in the worst possible place. But I hope it gets better. I really do, because I loved living in California.
I did too. I loved it. Yeah.
I think California is one of the absolute most beautiful places in the whole world. Yeah. I mean, the nature of California is unrivaled.
And you're in your business too. Like, I was a production stage manager out there, but I was doing like dinner theater, things like that. And
cool.
There was so much going on out there. So easy to find work if you're in theater or any kind of show business. And but I hear that's starting to change. There's other cities around the world that are hotspots for film now. Like, in Canada, there's quite a few places. Vegas has taken off.
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Thanks to Tyler Perry,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I would live back in the States for a while, but I don't think I'm going to make the Philippines like a home.
Yeah.
I think I'll be here for a year or two. I like it here.
Yeah.
But I, when I told my mom that I'm just going to basically quit my job and go and travel around the world and scuba dive as much as I can, when I told her this, she said, I always had ants in my pants from the time I was a little kid, I could never sit still,
I was the same way.
And so I maybe I'll stay here. I don't know, but I doubt it. I think I got too much travel in me, I'm 45 now.
Oh, you look younger than that. I thought you're like 35.
Well,
wow.
I'm not married, don't have any kids. Maybe that's got something to do with it,
Well, in the Philippines, they think everybody should be in a relationship here. So they're going to try and hook you up and get you married.
Yeah, Mark, who hooked us up, I met him, randomly just on the road right here, because we're neighbors. We're neighbors on the other side.
Yeah.
And, I barely met the guy, we hung out. We liked each other, obviously. We're instant friends.
Yeah.
But, he was like, hey, you single? I might have somebody for you, it was just like, it's sweet. It's actually the same in Israel, where everybody's trying to hook everybody up. Like, I'll be at the grocery checkout and people hear my accent and start asking me, what are you doing here? Da, da, da. Are you single? I might have a girl for you. It's pretty funny,
Yeah.
Even on my flight to Israel when I was moving there, I sat next to a woman who set me up with her niece. So I had a date before I even landed in Israel. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Didn't work out, but great girl. Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about some of the films that you've been working on. Like, what kind of projects are they?
Oh, so the company I work for mostly does education based on Israel stuff. Israel and I would say like issues that affect the Jewish community in the U.S. and abroad. The last, maybe 10 years or so, seen a real interesting kind of scary rise in public anti-Semitism. And that really affects a lot of young people, especially. So I make videos promoting what the organization does. So, it's a nonprofit, so we have to basically make commercials showing our work for donations, right? But a lot of the work I've been doing for the last 10 years is putting on these events. So, you're a production manager, right? So we're the guys in the back, on the tech table in the back of the room with the monitor showing us what's happening with camera 1 and camera 2, and hit the lights, and now roll video, come back, now audio cue, put up the title card, introduce this person, stuff like that. And so I do a lot of that for the fundraiser events. And now, obviously, I'm not there for them, but I'm helping produce them from here with like I said, pretty much as a consultant.
And so everybody watching this video, you'll notice the difference in the editing. And so Roy is using 3 cameras. I usually use 1 camera, and he's using his wireless microphone. So we're trying something totally different here to kind of go to another level with my channel. So I really appreciate you coming over here and, helping me set all this up, because it's way beyond my skill set.
No, I don't think it is. I mean, as soon as I set the stuff up, very clear that you know how all of this works. And I'm very, very happy to help. I've heard nothing but good things about you, even though this is only the second time we met,
I was doing my, I call them my talking head videos. So I just pick a topic and talk about it. And
Sure.
I've got this hat that says freedom on it. And for some reason, everything was a mirror image on the hat. When you look at the video, it's like I was looking in the mirror. It took me about 2 months to figure out how to do that, with people helping me how to go in my camera and change it.
Oh, it's a digitally flip? Okay.
Yeah, so I got that sorted out. People say, yeah. And then oh, look, you got a shirt on, but it's backwards. Why is that? And I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, all right. So once you've graduated to that part of knowing how to get into the settings, you're halfway there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what's your opinion about AI? Because I've got another friend of mine that's really much into that. And he was saying that there's programs out there that can actually make a film for you, a movie for you, or an animated piece for you.
Shh. Don't tell anybody. Let's keep this on the... No, I'm joking. Yeah, I guess there are programs that can do that. I haven't heard that they're any good. When they first started doing that stuff, I remember they made like the first like AI generated scripts and like first AI generated movies. And they're nonsense. They don't make any sense at all.
Right.
But I think that if you train the computer right, it could probably put out something that we would want to watch. The music that they're doing now. People say like write a song and record it in the way that Willie Nelson would.
Right.
And it'll sound like a Willie Nelson song.
Yeah.
So I think that probably it's not too far away that they'll be able to put together some kind of animation based on, if you want to make it look like a Pixar movie or make it look like a Disney film or something like that. I don't think it's too far away. Live action is, just a bit further. Yeah. But I do know that for B-roll, right? And when you do cutaways in a movie or a video, right? Let's say you bring up the ideas like back when I was in Orange County and I want a beautiful overhead shot, aerial shot of Orange County with you, walking down the street. I think that we're probably just a matter of, short little while before I could just tell the AI, give me a shot of Mark walking down the street. Here's a few pictures of him. And then it'll automatically be able to generate an image of you walking down the street in your hometown while you're just sitting here.
Wow. Have you seen the new Indiana Jones movie?
Nah, I didn't. You told me you liked it.
Yeah,
though.
well, the thing about it, what was so interesting to me is I'd say a good 30 minutes of it, he's young again.
Oh, yeah.
And how they did it, he's like riding a horse and doing all these different things, but it looks perfect. It looks just like it did in the original Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I don't know how they did that, but it wasn't like old footage that they reused. It was obviously new stuff, and somehow they must have taken his face and then generated, the body and everything. And I don't know how they did it, but it looked really good.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Is that you can just do that with a phone right now. They have this guy, Kyle Dunnigan's got these face swap videos that are hilarious. Yeah. He'll basically, he'll these apps just on your phone will make your face look like Trump, but you talk and it'll sound like Trump and it'll kind of look like Trump, but in a comedic sort of way. You can pick all these different celebrities and famous people, and I think you can feed it your friends and family, photos and whatever, and it'll make you look like them, and it just swaps the faces out from these other people. You can do so much with the digital stuff that you can even swap yourself out for a 25-year-old Harrison Ford.
Well, so we've got an election coming up pretty soon. Don't you think there's going to be people out there trying to create fake videos to embarrass a politician?
Oh, the deep fakes?
Yeah, deep
I mean,
fakes.
they're already making them. Yeah, yeah,
and
sure.
Who knows if it's really Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or whoever, saying something horrible or doing something embarrassing. And of course, it ends up on Facebook. It always ends up on Facebook. And it seems like after a while, it's going to be hard to tell what's real and what's not real, you know. And also your way out, if you say you did do something embarrassing, you can say, well, that wasn't me. That's obviously AI created that whole thing. That wasn't really me.
I know. This might sound like a cop-out, but I kind of threw up my hands a few years ago and I said, I don't have the time, the energy, the wherewithal, the research methodology to really, really know what's real and what's not real. Like, how much time am I going to spend on verifying the reality of a specific video?
Yeah, plus your average person's not going to be able to. If your sister or grandmother sent it to you in Facebook, you'll believe it's real because she sent it to you. You trust that person.
You would hope so, yeah. Listen, they say it a few years ago. They coined the term post-truth.
Yeah,
that we're in a post-truth era where truth doesn't actually even matter anymore. It's the messaging, the ethos that people care about. I mean, I really hope that's not true because I do believe that there is such a thing as true and false.
Oh yeah,
right
me too.
And wrong.
Yeah.
Well, there's a number of people that think everything is subjective.
Right.
They don't believe in objective reality, just narratives and notions, not actual concrete facts.
Catchphrases and.
So I don't know what's going to become of things, but I mean, you already see that we're in a weird time politically, globally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It seems like we're in some kind of a weird collective global crisis. All over the world, you just see lack of faith in government institutions, a lot of division. They say social media is a big part of it because we all get siloed into our own little spaces, and echo chambers. Honestly, I just don't really, I pay a little bit of attention here and there. I listen to a podcast here and there. I'll read an article here and there. But I'm almost kind of content with the notion of ignorance is bliss for me, at least personally. It's
Especially not. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I'm not in that world.
No.
And I really, while I do believe that it's possible to ascertain the truth, I don't know if it's possible for me to ascertain the truth on a lot of other things. So you gotta make my opinions in other ways than potentially fake videos and audio.
Well, in America right now, there's so much this divisiveness between different political parties and COVID and all the other things going on. In Israel, what's going on over there? Is it getting better, getting worse, or there's still all the problems with the Palestinians and what do you see the future of Israel being?
There's an old joke. It says basically, have you read the new book that came out about Israel's future? They say, no, I haven't had the time for it. It's like, oh, no problem. It's really short. That's an old Jewish joke about Israel because Israel's been on has had existential threats since before its existence. It's considered widely by many to be kind of a miracle that it exists at all, and that it survived the war in 1967 and then 73. Right now, Israel's got a pretty tumultuous political situation. Basically, it's a parliamentary system. It's not like the United States where we have a presidential system and then you vote for Congress, right? There, you vote for the party that you like, and if that party has enough votes or whatever, then they will the lead minister from that party will be the prime minister. So it's just like in England, right? What you end up with is coalitions of all these smaller parties that can't get 50%. Nobody gets even close to 50% of the vote. So you get all these smaller parties cobbling together a coalition to make 51% of the parliament. And that's who rules. The groups that cobbled together, Bibi Netanyahu cobbled together a coalition after, I think, 5 elections in 5 years, right? We just couldn't come to a majority. Nobody could cobble together a majority in all those years. They did, and then it fell and it crumbled. Anyway, Netanyahu cobbled one together that's super right wing. And there was a lot of voter fatigue. So a lot of people just didn't bother to come out and vote during these last elections that would have voted for more moderate parties. They've been voting nonstop for years. I lived there for 4 years. I had 4 votes, 4 different times to come out. And that's nuts. Anyhow, those parties that are in power right now are trying to enact what a lot of people consider a pretty right-wing agenda. They wouldn't be elected now. If they held elections today, the parliament would look completely different. There's a huge disapproval of the government. Like, you basically had a quarter of the population coming out to protest against this government and the reforms that they're going to try and institute right now. They've already passed some of them.
Reforms?
Well, the major one is the judicial reform. In the U.S., we've got a Supreme Court, right? And that's like enshrined in the Constitution. Israel doesn't have a constitution. They do have a Supreme Court, but largely the Supreme Court has acted as a check and balance against the parliament's power by self-appointing itself as the guardian of that of the check of that power, right? It's not really the powers of the Supreme Court were never really enshrined in any constitution like in the U.S. So the court kind of gave itself the power to like strike down laws that the parliament would pass that they deemed, unconstitutional. And what the parliament just did is basically said, we can override that if we want to, right? And so now there's a constitutional crisis, if you will, in Israel between the court and the parliament, because there's no separation of the parliament and the executive, right? Like the leader of the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, is the head of the country. There's no other branch of government to check them other than the judiciary, and now the judiciary has had kind of its wings cropped. So that brought out a huge amount of protest, and the main reason for all that protest is that the people knew that this government might try to enact some laws that the court would strike down, and now they hasn't come all the way to fruition yet, but it seems like it's just a matter of time before the parliament passes something, and then the court will strike it down. Then the parliament will say, well, you don't have the power to strike it down. We stripped that of you. And that's going to be the next big piece of news. As far as what's happening with the Palestinians, there's been a terror wave lately, actually. Number of different, what you call like small level attacks, which are bombing attacks, shooting attacks on just random civilians driving by. When I lived there, there was a shooting attack with just people sitting out at a bar, hanging out, drinking beer on one of the main drags on Dizengoff Street. And somebody came by on a motorcycle and just shot into the bar, just randomly shooting at civilians.
The population of Israeli citizens and Palestinians, how close is the amount of people? Is there more Palestinians than Israelis? I heard they're having big families and the population is growing as far as the Palestinians getting more and more, and eventually they're going to outnumber the Israelis. Is that true?
The demographics has always been kind of contentious on who's doing the counting and where you're counting and all that stuff, because it's never been really perfectly correct.
You find not a census in Palestine.
It depends on what you count also, right? So the Gaza Strip is basically 100% Palestinian.
Yeah.
There's no Jews living in there at all. And it's kind of become its own entity ruled by Hamas. The West Bank is an area that's run by the Palestinian Authority. And in that area, that's like 90% Palestinians, right? And then in Israel proper, as you know, basically Israel not counting the West Bank and not counting the Gaza Strip, that's about 75 to 80% Jewish, with 20 to 25% Palestinian Muslims and Christians, right? With a few other denominations thrown in. Overall, in all of that area, Gaza, West Bank, and pre-1967 Israel, that is about 10 million total people. 12 million total people, with about 6 or 7 million Jews, 5 or 6 million Arabs, something like that.
It's like
don't quote me. We could look it up.
In New York City.
I might be wrong about that. It might be closer to like 12 million people.
Pretty sure that's the population in New York.
I think if you count some of the burbs of New York, it's even bigger than that. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're not talking about a gigantic amount of people here. And it's roughly 50-50 if you count all of those areas. As far as demographics, the Jews of Israel, of all of the OECD countries in the world, have the highest birth rate.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Israel itself has a really high birth rate for a modern country. I think it's something like 3.4. I think the U.S. is like at 1.9. So it's almost double.
That's a good thing
US
for a country nowadays. Like you look at China, the problem they're having, Italy, Japan, a lot of other countries, their population is dropping. There's no young people.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing for the country then.
Yeah, I've heard it described as, back in the day, you needed children because they were free labor for you.
Right, yeah.
Now they're an expensive hobby. Yeah. So people have a lot fewer of them. Well, now that you live in the city, right? You don't need kids to work the farm, right? It's different. So people are having fewer and fewer kids. I myself, I'm 45. I don't have any kids. Probably not going to have any. It's and I know a lot of other people like me as well that decided not to. But Israel itself has a pretty high birth rate.
What country in the Middle East is the biggest threat right now to Israel?
Iran. It's always been. Yeah. A lot of what you see happening in Israel as far as terror from Gaza or even the West Bank, certainly from Lebanon, that's all financed by Iran. They're nuts.
That way?
Well, since the overthrow of the Shah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like before the Shah, wasn't there a president of Iran who was like pro-Western, and women over there were wearing short skirts and they were driving American cars and very pro-Western. And then when he was overthrown, that changed everything, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so in 1979, the Shah, who was a kind of a pro-Western autocrat, kind of a rough ruler. I don't know a lot about it, but basically from what I've heard, the Shah had like secret police. The Shah was imprisoning political dissidents, and just breaking up any protest against his rule with like an iron fist. You know what I mean? Like, but women could go out with their hair uncovered and wear bikinis at the beach and stuff like that. Right? It was a much more liberalized society, and certainly for the Middle East, big time. And in 1979, the Islamic Revolution happened, and everything changed. The character of that nation has changed a lot.
So like in the 1960s, was the relationship better between Iran and Israel, or has it always been contentious?
Yeah, I think it was fine back then. I think they had trade relations, even though it was a Muslim nation. It wasn't hostile to Israel like it is now. It's kind of in the governing ethos of the Islamic government, at least. I don't think it's part of the Iranian people's sort of part of their culture necessarily, but it's the government's political culture to basically all completely agree that they want to get rid of Israel. Like they want Israel to end. Ahmadinejad supposedly used to open up his fireside chat sort of radio addresses by saying like, today we are one day closer to the elimination of the Zionist entity. And while they hate Israel, they've always considered Israel to be the little Satan and the United States to be the great Satan. And hey, listen, the U.S. propped up a autocratic dictator that ruled over those people for a long time.
Yeah, we did.
And I think in the 1950s, we helped overthrow a democratically elected government out there. Yeah. People have reason to be upset with the U.S. I don't know how things would go if somebody else was a hegemon. I don't know how much better it would be for the people of the region. But there's a history, and so I understand why there would be some upset. But the hate of the Iranian government, I don't think really reflects the Iranian people, at least not the ones that I've met.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I've met quite a few in my life.
They're very friendly, nice people.
Yeah, and it's not just that. They've got like this, like a cosmopolitan culture about them from Iran. They seem to tell me that the government represents maybe about 10% of the population of Iran, and that about 90% of the country is not with the government. That's what I've gotten from people who have lived there, who grew up there and moved to the States.
So you don't see yourself ever living in Israel?
Again, I mean, maybe it might be a nice place to retire. I don't know. It really is a lovely place to live. I got to tell you, even with the threat of terror attacks around you, knowing that that's a possibility, even with that out there, man, it is such a beautiful, peaceful place. Like, I got to tell you, man, you can just walk anywhere. 4 a.m, a young lady dressed not modestly can feel free to walk around Tel Aviv, a million-person major metropolitan area, and she can just walk around at 4 a.m. without a care in the world of anything happening to her. I don't know of almost any European or American major city that that's the case. But you can do that in Tel Aviv, in a metropolis, and you're on the beach in the Mediterranean, and it's a phenomenal beach where you can sit on a chair and order margaritas and Mai Tais while you're just sitting there. You know, something you cannot do in California because all the beaches are state parks. There's no alcohol allowed in state parks. In Israel, you could just chill out and have a drink on the water. It's so nice, man. There's a reason that so many Europeans come and visit every year.
Do you still have family back there?
Yeah, I got a lot of family there. My whole mother's side of the family lives there. They're from Morocco, and they all left along with all the rest of the Moroccan Jews in the 1960s. That Morocco used to have about 250,000 Jews, give or take, living there, and they all left, moving to France, Canada, U.S., and majority to Israel, or at least a plurality to Israel. And that's when my mother's family went over, and they all live there still. And my brother and his wife and 2 kids live there as well. Not far from Haifa, actually.
So going back to you, in your life, what is the most difficult thing you've ever had to go through? And you think about challenges, or you look back at that point in your life and say, I'm so glad I got through that.
Ooh, man, that's a good question. Man, I know this might sound silly to some people. I don't know. And if it does, okay, fine. Maybe you just don't understand. But I raised a sickly puppy, nursed her back to health. She was my pride and joy, just the love of my life. Beautiful Bella. Just love that dog with all my heart. And she died from like an autoimmune disease way too young at like 6.5 years old. And it broke my heart completely when I had to put her to sleep, you know.
Wow, that's gotta be hard.
It was, I don't know, it took a piece out of me. It broke my heart in every possible way. You know, I'm sure there's some people watching that are thinking, man, you know, you're so lucky that that's the worst thing you had ever happen to you is your dog dying, you know. And I understand that. But for me, I don't know if my heart ever broke that badly.
Did you ever get another dog? You think you'd ever get another one? Or because where you're living now, there's a bunch of dogs over there. I saw them the other day.
Yeah, and I love having those dogs. You know what I mean? I do, you know. And they're sweet dogs. I really like those guys.
But they're not yours. Yeah.
You know, I thought about getting another dog, but I travel just so much that I don't think it'd be fair.
Yeah.
Because I'm gone even before now. You know, I'd leave for a month or 2 at a time to go traveling around. Sometimes I'd go to work, 7 a.m, wouldn't come back. I'd go to dinner with friends after work or something like that, wouldn't come back home until 10, 11 o'clock at night. You can't do that with a dog.
Yeah,
like that's so unfair to raise a pooch like that. I think you need a little bit more of a consistent, stable home life before you take that responsibility again, you know?
How about this? You're still a young man.
Compared to you.
Yeah, well, compared to me, you're low. But if you could go back in time or go back and give advice to your younger self, anywhere in your youth, like when you were a teenager, 30s, whatever year, and give yourself some advice, not like buy Microsoft or buy Apple, but some life advice to your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
Life advice to my younger self, I would say
wisdom.
Don't be afraid of taking a chance that might fail.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing that happens is it fails.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of failure. That's important.
There were some opportunities that I didn't take because of like a financial risk, that I'd just be broke. But no matter what job I've ever had, no matter how much money I ever made, I always spent all of it. So I'm always broke, no matter how much money I was making. I've always been broke because I feel like the money is just for spending and enjoying. So if I'd be broke with less money is all that would be the difference. Right now, you know, I'm broke now. My money's okay, but I'm just, you know, I'm not poor now. There's a difference between being poor and being broke. So I'd be poor and broke versus, you know, middle class and broke. And there is a difference in that. But there were some risks that I thought I should have taken and I didn't. Doing this right now, what I'm doing, is a kind of a risk, you know? I went down to, you know, about 20% of my salary right now, versus what I was making before. But man,
does it feel good to be free? Because you're a digital nomad. That's what I am too. I'm a digital nomad too.
Yeah.
And we make our own rules, do what we want to do. And
I'm so glad I did it. I took on a little more responsibility than I wanted to with this house that I'm renting right now and fixing up. But it's almost done and I'm just about ready to enjoy it. And that's great. But yeah, I know that a lot of people are afraid, like if I try this business venture, I might lose what I've got. But if there's something you believe in, something you really want to do, I think you got to do it. At least if you don't have kids.
Yeah.
I think if you got a family that you got to provide for, you should be a little more risk averse.
Right.
But while you're in the single phase of your life without those kind of responsibilities, I think you got to take your shots.
Yeah,
Go for it. If you got a dream, you got something you really want to do it. And I wanted to travel the world and scuba dive for years. And I've been trying to figure out how to do it. And I finally just said, I'm going to do it and let the chips fall where they may. If I go broke doing this and have to go and get some crappy job, then that's what I'll do, you know? But I'll be fine either way.
You're filming everything, right? When you go scuba diving, don't you film it and make a video out of it? So you've got that content that someday you can do something with it.
Yeah, so far I've only done one video with that, but I've got a bunch more content I'm planning to edit and release on my YouTube channel just to show people just the beauty of the underwater world, you know?
What's the name of your channel?
Oh, I think it's just Roy Stein on YouTube. It's like youtube.com/roysteinvideos.
Okay, we'll put a link to that, guys. So check out his channel, subscribe to it.
Yeah, I haven't really
share his videos.
Haven't really launched it yet, but
so it'll be out soon. It'll be out soon.
Maybe I'll put out a couple more videos now that this is coming out. Yeah, it's.
Isn't it amazing though what people are doing with YouTube now? Like some people out there making insane amounts of money and doing crazy things, you know, with a little YouTube channel. Like this guy that he's a country singer, just came out with this song. I can't remember what the name of the song was, but he was living like a camper. Wrote this song, came out, and now it's on #1 on the Billboard charts, you know, and he's just amazing.
Awesome.
You know, just by himself.
I love that.
I Want to Go Home, I think is the title of the song. But
I don't know it.
Even like awesome. Justin Bieber, like he got his start. His mother was posting his videos on YouTube. And you look at Jake Paul and Logan Paul, what they've done, like it's amazing. And Joe Rogan, you know. He started doing that just for fun, just a laugh with his guys sitting around.
Yeah, just to get high with his friends and laugh.
And he gets $100 million for his old videos.
Oh, I know. Isn't that wild?
It's insane.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, that's a guy that's put himself out there in the most earnest, non-pretentious way.
Yeah.
And people responded in a positive way. You know, you got to love it. My YouTube channel is not going to be anything like that. It's just mostly about trying to show people the beautiful underwater world that's there. You know, we have another planet right next to us. I mean, I'm looking at the beach right now. Can't wait to jump in. There's so much life, so much awesome stuff in there. And I try to describe it to people like, you know, when you go camping, you go out into the woods, you'll be lucky if you see any animals out there because they hear you and they scurry and they hide behind stuff. You go out into the water, onto a coral reef, and you're surrounded by thousands of fish and all kinds of little critters and beautiful crustaceans and anemones and just so many different types of life under the water that are all out there for you to see. They're not hiding away from you. And it's all so beautiful and cool, man.
I interviewed a boy not too long ago, about 3 months ago, who was diving like not even 5 kilometers from here. And he came across this turtle as big as this table. Oh, the shell was 6 feet long. Just the shell.
Love that.
Just right there, you know, right off the beach, there it was.
Oh, right here in downwind is incredible diving. I mean, that's it's the reason I'm here. It's one of the most biodiverse places on the planet, you know, and I'm planning to use this as a base to travel all around the Philippines and see all the underwater life out here. And then also jump off and go see Thailand, Indonesia, Japan, and see all their beautiful underwater life too.
So where's your next trip going to be? You got a plan or?
Yeah. I'm going to go visit a friend of mine on the island of Mauritius in the Indian Ocean.
Oh, wow. I've heard about it. Never been there.
Yeah, he's got a home out there and he's going to be there in October. And so I'm going to go out there for a couple weeks. In fact, later today, I'm supposed to buy a plane ticket out there. It's about a month from now. Wow. And I might stop in Malaysia on the way. Not sure. But I heard Kuala Lumpur is a really awesome city.
I was there back in the 80s, but it's been a long time since I was there. But I've heard good things about it.
Since then, they built the biggest, at least at one point, the tallest building in the world, right? Pretty cool. I'll report back.
Yeah,
let you know what it's like now.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, we've got about 30 minutes here, so thank you so much for your time, Roy. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy, and I really appreciate helping me edit these videos. So in the comments below, guys, please let us know what you think about this new format. If I should continue doing this, you got any ideas, any questions, any comments, I'd appreciate it. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
My pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay, bye. That's okay, huh?
That was great.